For years, the story in crypto has felt like a battle for speed, for features, for who can build the next big thing. But what if the real fight between Bitcoin and Ethereum isn't actually about technology at all? What if it's a clash of two totally different philosophies about what a blockchain should even be for? Today, we're going to break that all down. Okay, let's dive right in. Because what's so wild is that this quote, which just perfectly nails the entire debate, it comes from Vitalik Buterin, Ethereum's own co-founder. He actually wrote this to challenge his own community, basically asking them, hey, have we seriously considered the other side's argument? So let's do exactly that. You see, this isn't just about two different cryptocurrencies. It's really about two competing dreams for our digital future. On one side, you've got this vision of a perfect, unchangeable digital money. And on the other, the dream of a brand new programmable internet. And this really lays out the ideological divide so clearly. Team Bitcoin, they see one single, absolutely crucial use case: creating sound money. Their entire focus is on security and simplicity above everything else. They see Bitcoin as a kind of financial lifeline. But Team Blockchain, led by Ethereum, they see currency as, well, just the beginning. Their goal is a world computer that can run any application you can possibly dream up, which means they're all about functionality and utility. So let's start with Team Bitcoin. To really get their mindset, you have to understand their one singular obsession: creating the perfect form of what's called hard money. So what is hard money? Well, the core idea, which comes from economist Saifedean Ammous, is all about its stock-to-flow ratio. Just think of gold for a second. The stock is all the gold we've ever mined in history. It's a massive pile. The flow is the tiny new amount we dig up each year. That really high ratio makes it incredibly difficult for anyone to just create a bunch more gold and devalue the supply. That's what makes it such a reliable store of value over time. And this picture illustrates the danger perfectly. For centuries, the people of Yap Island used these enormous stones as money. Their value came from the simple fact that they were incredibly hard and dangerous to make and move. But then, a European explorer showed up with modern tools, and suddenly he could crank them out like crazy. The flow went through the roof, the stock-to-flow ratio just collapsed, and poof, the stones lost their value. That is the easy money trap that Bitcoin was specifically designed to avoid. So here's the crucial point. This obsession with hardness is exactly why Bitcoin's culture is willing to sacrifice everything else: speed, fancy features, low fees. They are trying to build something that, in Vitalik's own words describing this exact philosophy, is meant to be a last resort. It's not supposed to be cheap or fast. It's designed to work, no matter what, when all other lights go out. All right, now let's totally switch gears and look at the complete opposite vision. Because when Ethereum's founders looked at Bitcoin, they didn't see a finished product. They saw a revolutionary first step. For them, the whole idea of a secure, decentralized ledger wasn't just about money. No, that was way too small. It was the foundation for a whole new, unstoppable internet. They believed that if you could make that base layer programmable, then currency would be just one of literally thousands of applications you could build on top. Everything from decentralized finance and social media to completely new ways of organizing ourselves. And you know what? For a long time, the data has just overwhelmingly backed them up. I mean, just look at the gap in their ecosystems on layer 2, which is where most of the real action happens. Ethereum's ecosystem has more than 15 times the value locked up, almost 10 times the number of active developers, and way, way more complex applications. By pretty much every metric, the programmable world has been winning. And just to put a fine point on it, we're talking about over $45 billion of assets being actively used in Ethereum's Layer 2 apps. Compare that to just a couple billion on Bitcoin's. The scale of economic activity is it's on a completely different planet. So for years, the narrative was set in stone. Bitcoin is the store of value, the digital gold, and Ethereum is where all the actual innovation happens. But a whole wave of new developments is starting to seriously blur those lines. Now, this isn't a totally new idea. Bitcoin has been trying to add more functionality for years. You had the Lightning Network, which focused on payments. You had projects like Stacks that brought a limited version of smart contracts. But they've all been pretty slow, kind of incremental steps. But that slow, incremental pace? It might be over. The recent development of protocols like BRC 2.0, well, this represents a potential leap forward. This isn't just another small tweak. It's a direct attempt to bring the full power of Ethereum's programming model right onto the Bitcoin network. So how on earth does it work? Well, in simple terms, it very cleverly integrates an Ethereum virtual machine. You can think of that as like Ethereum's brain for running smart contracts, right into Bitcoin's ecosystem. This lets developers write complex apps in Solidity, which is Ethereum's main language, and store them on the Bitcoin blockchain using this new method called inscriptions. And here's the real kicker. It allows for full compatibility. That means Ethereum apps could, in theory, run on Bitcoin without needing a traditional and often really vulnerable bridge. So, with Bitcoin starting to get these Ethereum-like powers, the obvious question is, okay, does this mean one chain is eventually just going to win and take over everything? Well, here's the final twist in the story. And once again, it comes from Vitalik Buterin. As these different ecosystems start to maybe converge and connect to each other, a brand new and honestly, a much more dangerous question comes up. What happens to security when you start moving valuable assets between these separate blockchains? And this is his critical warning. Vitalik basically argues that while a future with many different blockchains is pretty likely, a cross-chain future is fundamentally insecure. Those bridges that connect independent blockchains, they create a massive systemic risk. And why? Because the security of an asset is only ever as strong as the chain it came from. Let me break this down with a quick example. Let's say you hold some Ethereum on the Solana blockchain. You don't actually have real ETH. You have a wrapped token, which is basically an IOU that's backed by some real ETH locked in a digital vault, the bridge. Now imagine Ethereum itself gets hacked in a major way, like a 51% attack. The attacker could steal all the real ETH from that vault, and suddenly all those IOU tokens on Solana, they're backed by nothing. They're completely worthless. That's what he means by systemic contagion. One chain's failure could spark a financial crisis across many others, and the more money we lock in these bridges, the bigger and juicier the target becomes. And that huge risk brings us full circle, right back to this final, really provocative thought from developer Matt Luongo. It forces us back to those core philosophies we started with. As these different platforms start to look more and more alike on a technical level, maybe the real question isn't which technology is going to win, maybe it's about which asset best fulfills that original promise of being a truly sovereign, uncontrollable money that is safest on its own home turf. Is the ultimate goal to build a super complex, interconnected world computer with all the hidden risks that come with it? Or is it to build a true alternative to our entire traditional financial system? That's the question that's going to define the next chapter of this battle.